Take action is now.
It's not if, it's when this is going to happen. It will happen. Yes. When these water levels come back up, and they will come back up.
Jacob Barker, CBC News, Leamington.
As of tomorrow, 4th doses of the COVID vaccine will open up to all adults in Ontario. Some doctors have been pushing for the expanded eligibility for weeks, but the chief medical officer isn't strongly recommending it for everyone. Lorenda Redekop has more.
We've made the decision to expand the eligibility for second boosters to include Ontarians aged from 18 to 59 years of age.
It takes effect tomorrow as cases and hospitalizations have been rising. But the chief medical officer isn't saying everyone necessarily needs a 4th dose right now.
I hope our targeted approach is really to those 18 to 59 with any medical illness, any risk of getting hospitalized. Please come forward and get this second booster dose.
He urged people to talk with their doctor to assess their risk. Dr. Neely Kaplan-Mirth is an Ottawa family doctor who's been fighting for this change.
I'm relieved that we don't have to go to court in order to fight for access to the boosters.
She's run public vaccine clinics called Jabapalooza and is planning her next one for July 24th. She says there is some nuance to who needs the vaccine most, but sees the announcement as mixed messaging.
How are people supposed to gauge their risk without even knowing how many cases are around them? And as a family doctor, and if you look at the wastewater levels, we can tell you cases are there. It's on the rise.
She says younger adults may be at risk, including of long COVID, for example, if they work in a grocery store or at a camp. She'd like to see some mask mandates brought back, given this latest wave. The chief medical officer says he expects it to peak in 2 weeks. He also urged people who don't have their 3rd shot to get it. He says 5 million people who are eligible don't have it. Downtown today, some people wondered if a 4th shot is needed.
The first 3 were. The 4th one might not be because it might not be updated enough yet for new strains.
The chief medical officer expects an Omicron-specific vaccine to come out sometime in fall, and people who get a 4th dose now could still get that one. These two friends say they'd probably do it.
I'm not opposed to getting a 4th dose, though. If it's recommended, I'll do it.
I'm also not opposed to getting it, if it's being offered to us, so.
We'll follow the health advice, I guess, because I am not a doctor. I don't know any better myself. But it does kind of make me think, how many doses is there going to be?
4th doses will be available at many pharmacies, doctors' offices, and vaccination clinics. There was one other part of the announcement. The access to free rapid tests is being extended until the end of the year. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
A highly transmissible and deadly rabbit virus has been detected in Windsor. One rabbit has died because of the disease, with many others awaiting test results in the county. Rabbit hemorrhagic disease, or RHDV2, was first discovered in Ontario last month in Lambton County. Experts say that 9 out of 10 rabbits who tested for the virus die. Symptoms include fever, loss of appetite, and difficulty walking, and they can last for 5 days. Vaccines are not widely available because the virus is new to the region, but the Humane Society suggests rabbit owners should talk to a veterinarian to learn more. We've also got more details on our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. In a surprise move, the Bank of Canada has delivered its biggest interest rate hike in decades, a full percentage point. The trend-setting overnight rate is now 2.5%. The bank says the increase is needed to tame inflation. CBC's Kyle Bax has the details.
Today, we raised the policy interest rate by 100 basis points, 1 percentage point. An increase of this magnitude in one meeting is very unusual.
Unusual indeed, the biggest interest rate hike by the Bank of Canada in nearly 25 years. A massive move the bank says is needed to counter the immense inflation across the country.
We are increasing our policy rate quickly to prevent high inflation from becoming entrenched. If it does, it will be more painful for the economy and for Canadians to get inflation back down.
It's the kind of action many experts felt was necessary, increase lending rates to fight runaway inflation. Still, experts were surprised by the size of the rate hike. Many Canadians will now pay higher rates to borrow money for their mortgages and lines of credit. Slowing down spending should help calm the rapid rise in cost of living expenses.
The people who have borrowed the most money are, especially relative to income, are in the most trouble right now. Certainly, we have seen a lot of speculation in housing markets in recent years. People taking on second, third, fourth mortgages and doing all of that on the assumption that we would have cheap money for a very long time. And I think a lot of those people are seeing a very sharp rise in borrowing costs.
The central bank still expects price increases for several more months before the economy cools off.
There are shortages of workers and of many goods and services. Demand needs to slow so supply can catch up and price pressures ease. And third, our goal is to get inflation back to its 2% target with a soft landing for the economy.
There's a saying, go big or go home. It's clear the Bank of Canada is choosing the former, taking aim at extraordinary inflation and trying to stomp it out. Kyle Bax, CBC News, Calgary.
In the United States, inflation has shot to a 40-year high. The figures for June show American consumers are paying 9.1% more than they were at the same time last year. The increase was driven by surging prices for everyday necessities, including gasoline, food, and rent. Grocery prices are up more than 12% in the U.S., and rents jumped almost 6%. Gasoline prices have dipped slightly in recent weeks, but they remain at historically high levels. Even with volatile items like food and fuel taken out of the calculation, U.S. core inflation is still very high at nearly 6%. Inflation in Canada is running at almost 8%. Statistics Canada released new data from the latest census today. It provided a snapshot of the shape and makeup of Canadian families. Data indicates that it's becoming more common for multiple generations to live under one roof. It also revealed more couples are living in common law partnerships and without children. 23% of couples who live together are unmarried. That's the highest percentage in the G7. And the new data showed more Canadians than ever, 4.5 million, are living alone. And we took a look at some of the major findings for Windsor specifically. More young adults live with their parents in this city than nearly all other areas of the country. About 45% of people 20 to 34 years old were living with their parents last year. Incomes are also lower than the provincial standard, but on par with the median Canadian income. In Windsor, that number is about $63,000 a year. The gap between the wealthy and poor is also high. Windsor has the 5th largest income inequality of major cities in the country. And you can tune into Windsor Morning, where host Nav Nanwa will hear from experts about why this is happening. To the United States now. There is more anger over the police response to the deadly school shooting in Uvalde, Texas in May. It's over surveillance video that was released, which shows what officers did and didn't do as a gunman killed 19 students and 2 teachers. And it was made public just hours before a rally on Capitol Hill, calling for more measures to improve gun control. Katie Simpson was at the protest.
Enough is enough! Enough is enough!
Hundreds of parents, survivors of gun violence, and activists are here on Capitol Hill, and they have a message for lawmakers. They are angry, they are frustrated, and they are emotional. They want to see a ban on assault-style weapons, especially in light of the surge in gun violence that has been experienced in the United States. In recent months, in recent weeks, there have been more than 300 mass shootings in the United States this year alone so far. Now, we spoke with some people in the crowd today, and they describe what it's like to live in America in this moment.
We're afraid. We're afraid to be standing here. We're constantly looking up, looking for shooters, afraid that a bomb squad's here. We're in constant fear, and it's not just us who are so privileged to be here and talk about it and talk to you about it. It's people who everywhere. It's mothers everywhere. I don't know any mother, any parent who's not afraid right now to be living here.
This rally is taking place less than 24 hours after security footage of the shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas, was published by a Texas newspaper and a Texas television station. It is 77 minutes of footage. It is extremely difficult to watch. And in those moments, you can see when police first enter the building, they hear gunshots for the first time and retreat down a hallway. And that documents the 77 minutes they were inside that building before they actually entered the room and ended that massacre. There has been mixed, very strong reaction to the release of that footage. Some family members are deeply distraught that they did not see it first. Others are so angry with the actions of police that even though people knew the police response, it's already been highly criticized and is under investigation, but to actually see what was going on inside, it has left them even more heartbroken. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Washington.
Back to local news now. Symbols of sacred Indigenous teachings will soon mark part of downtown Kingsville. CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa has more on what the artwork will look like.
Colorful fish are coming to this walkway right here. They'll be swimming south towards Lake Erie. The fish represent displaced souls, ones that are finally returning home.
What goes around that piece is the disbursement, right, of Caldwell First Nation and us being all over, Turtle Island, just because we were never given, that space to call home, right? And now, many know that in November of 2020, right, Caldwell finally got that reserve status for a piece of land here. So that's what we're hoping, that building, those people will start coming back home.
The painted crosswalk located at Pearl Street West and Division Street South will then lead to a circle of sacred teachings. The symbols placed here will represent Anishinaabe values that are essential to living a good life. These include truth, honesty, respect, courage, and love. Kingsville Council is installing the artwork in consultation with Caldwell First Nation. Council approved the designs earlier this week. It hopes the artwork will inform the community about these sacred Indigenous teachings.
Still to this day, people don't realize that, there's a First Nation community right here in this town. So it's kind of starting to open up those pathways, and people are starting to see that, that we're here.
The town is now waiting on another report that will look at costs and a timeline to get the art installed. A Kingsville artist also worked on the project. She pitched the idea of a colorful crosswalk to council in the hopes of brightening up the town.
Some people don't feel included in certain parts of cities or towns, but by including them with like a sidewalk or something that brings a little bit of colorfulness, I think people will be more cheerful and happy.
The municipality says it looks forward to seeing the artwork come to life. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Kingsville.
The Lancaster Bomber restoration is nearing completion. It should be ready by 2024, just in time to celebrate the 100th anniversary of the Royal Canadian Air Force. But there's still no firm plans on where this plane will be housed. CBC's Del Molnar reports.
This was the main goal when we started on the aircraft many years ago, was to get to the center section and repair all of the damage that was done when it was put on the pedestal. You can see this is all new material. These cross beams are all brand new.
Project Director Don Christopher says most of the work restoring the World War II bomber has been completed.
We actually have most of the parts that we need to finish the aircraft, probably 98%, and most of those have been restored. We have a trailer full of finished parts out behind the Quonset hut that are ready to go back on the aircraft. Right now it's mostly stripping old paint in the rear section and then final paint and of course assembly. 2 machine guns.
Christopher adds the stabilizers sent to Great Britain in a part swapping agreement have also been returned. Kevin Davies has been doing the painting. He's been on the project since it began in 2005.
Knowing that there are so few of these examples of aircraft left in the world, it's been a real honor to be able to work on something that's been legendary through the course of World War II.
It's expected the plane will be reassembled in about 2 years. However, the Lancaster crew still has to work out details with the city as to where it will be housed.
So the building itself, we haven't had those final discussions at this moment, but we are looking at starting the discussions to be able to look at the long-term possibility of having a display or having a public display of the Lancaster.
If we put it together in the hangar, it's going to stay in the hangar because it will not fit through our doors. The only way out would be to go back to the original doors in the hangar, and then we could roll it outside. So there are several options, and those are under discussion with the city right now.
Once reassembled, the plane will be in flying condition, but there are no plans to do that. The extra cost would be too much. For now, fundraising is continuing, and the final cost is estimated to be $2 million.
We've been lucky to have a decent 16 members volunteer their time every week coming in and working on this aircraft. I say it's like eating an elephant a spoonful at a time, and this is a pretty big elephant we got here.
Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Let's take a live look outside there. We do have a chance of showers for this evening, but we've got sunny days ahead. Kim McDonald will be here with weather right after the break. Stay with us. A cool treat to beat the heat for some lucky animals at the Madrid Zoo.
Chicas!
Zookeepers gave out popsicles with a twist to hydrate the animals amid a scorching heat wave. Fruit, meat, or fish-laced frozen treats were given out, and they varied according to the animals' food preferences. So that panda took a shine to a watermelon popsicle, while lions preferred to devour frozen delights containing beef. And in the aquarium, fish popsicles proved popular with the seals. Now, as for the rhinoceros, a cold shower hit the spot. And this is a really good time to bring in Kim McDonald for our weather forecast, because Kim, I'm sure folks around here are going to be reaching for some popsicles or heading for that cold shower with some heat headed this way. Talk us through it.
You know, my first job was a Dickie D ice cream salesperson when I was 14. I wish I had gone to the zoo. That would have been great. But no.
That would have been great.
We do have some heat on the way. We had a few showers through the afternoon. Nothing too heavy. A couple of lightning strikes in the distance, but we can see that the skies are clearing. It's been fairly dry across southern Ontario in general. We're at a deficit, but extreme southwestern Ontario around the Windsor area, not quite as bad, a little less than normal. 90% of normal in May, 80% in June, and so far 28% of normal in July. So we're a little low, but not as low as other places, and that's because we get the thunderstorm. So you get one thunderstorm, and suddenly you've got 40 millimeters of rain in one shot. Super buck moon is tonight, and we've got clear skies for that. It is the brightest super moon of the year. They call it the buck moon because it's when the horns start to come out of the bucks this time of year. You can see Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Venus along with that, and the skies will be clear enough. We have a little bit of cloud cover, but not so bad, and it's in the early morning hours. By Thursday morning, sunshine, 18 degrees in Windsor. It'll be comfortable, and we're going to say goodbye to the rain that we've been seeing. So the showers move out of the area. A ridge of high pressure moves in, but keep in mind, once we get the sunshine, the UV starts to build as well. So temperatures not bad. This is just a little shy of normal. 26 degrees in Windsor, 28 is normal, but it will feel like 28 through the afternoon, but that means it's not all that humid. The UV will be at 8, and so that is high. It means that you need extra precautions, or we're down to that 8 to 10 mark, and that means, yeah, you need the sunscreen. So for the next 5 days, this is the rain we're going to see through the southwest, but again, it's not a ton, and it's not really until Sunday and Monday. So for the next 3 days, we're looking at lots of sunshine, temperatures in the high 20s, and we climb to 30 degrees by Sunday, but that's also the day we are going to be seeing the rain. This is a look at the big picture. So this is the front that has been bringing the action. Here comes that ridge of high pressure sticking around through the overnight. Take a look at that supermoon if you're up in the early morning hours or really late tonight.
Thanks so much for that, Kim. We'll be looking out. Appreciate it.
Okay, great.
When we come back, we have news from south of the border. Stay with us.
A.
U.S. President Joe Biden is visiting Israel for the first time since taking office. When he arrived today, he toured a display of the country's multi-tier air defense systems at Ben Gurion Airport just outside Tel Aviv. Biden then headed to Jerusalem and participated in a ceremony at Yad Vashem, a Holocaust museum and memorial. Over the next few days, he'll meet with Israeli leaders, the president of the Palestinian Authority, and visit the occupied West Bank. And on Friday, he'll travel to Saudi Arabia to hold talks with the Crown Prince and attend a summit of Gulf countries. A humpback whale wowed a group of boaters near Bathurst, New Brunswick, appearing beside their boat in the Bay of Chaleur, about 10 kilometers offshore a few days ago.
Oh, wow.
What a breathtaking sight as the marine giant breached the water surface, splashing, jumping, and rolling about 300 meters in front of the boat. It's a rare sighting for that part of the bay. The boaters and the whale followed each other for about an hour along the coastline. I love that. Whale watching is one of my favorite things. That is it for CBC Windsor News. For news anytime, go to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for watching and have a great night.